Michael Bricker is the Chief of Care Centers for Companions and Animals for Reform and Equity Care. As Chief of Care Centers, Michael curates strategies for each care center to develop a national model for workforce development to provide sustainable change and save more animals. Previously, Michael was Director of Operations for the Shelter Embed program at Best Friends Animal Society, and he spent most of his time in Texas as Interim Executive Director at different shelters. Before Best Friends, Mike was the Director of Operations at Camden County Animal Shelter. And in addition to rewriting the shelter's adoption policies, Mike helped to create a Lifesaving Department, launch Camden County Animal Shelter's Community Cat Program, pioneer the Rent a Dog program, and modernize the shelter's medical operations. And so with that, I would like to welcome Michael Bricker and look forward to the presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I have this now. So first, I just want to thank everybody for joining this conference. I saw a lot of people are from the East Coast, and man, it was crazy just getting to my little office here. I don't have an office in my house. My house is crazy. I have 3 kids, 5 dogs, and 3 cats. So it is nutty at my house. So my father-in-law lives in town, so he gave me the basement to use for my office, and I love it. And it's amazing. It's a lot, more quiet, but just getting over here was crazy today due to the snow. So thank you all again for joining this presentation. So again, my name is Michael Bricker. I am the Chief of Engagement for Care and also the Director of Care Centers. And today we're going to talk about harnessing the power of community wisdom. I think this presentation is going to be important. I did see the breakdown. A lot of people are focused on TNR. We have people that are working as employees for shelters and rescues. I think this is a conversation that we should all be having, and I think a lot of it could be common sense. But you know, I've worked in an animal shelter for years, and I understand how things just keep coming and coming and coming at you, and it's hard to kind of be proactive instead of reactive. And when you're talking about harnessing the power of community wisdom, it's definitely on that proactive scale. So it's something that you have to really work for and think of, and it's outside of what your day-to-day is. It's outside of the TNR. It's outside of the daily shelter and rescue things that you have to do during the day. So this is a good thing to start with, I think. All right, so before we get started, I always want to talk about the amazing team of care. So this is our care leadership team. Obviously myself, we have James Evans and Jennifer Evans as CEO and COO. We have Johnny Jenkins, who was just promoted to Chief of Staff, and Mwenny Rudd, who's the Senior Director of Research and Development. This team is amazing. I'm sure you've seen everything that CARE's been doing over the past year and a half, and really it's all due to this small team. So very thankful for all that. So what CARE is? CARE, we are injustice disruptors. So CARE is using research, community wisdom, and creating narratives to inspire animal welfare organizations and individuals to be more inclusive and save more lives. So our goals are to address organizational and personal biases within animal welfare, to bring diverse voices to human and animal well-being while also advocating for a more inclusive path to pet adoption. And I want to highlight those words right there, human and animal well-being. At CARE, we really don't like to say animal welfare. We don't consider ourselves an animal welfare organization. We are a human and animal well-being organization. I think that term was coined by Johnny Jenkins, and I just love it because really, it's easy to forget. I think the thing that a lot of people are saying right now is like focusing on both sides of the leash, and I really agree with that. I mean, we have to think about humans when we're thinking about animals every single time. Next goal would be to use evidence-based tools, narratives, and insights to inspire organizations to be more inclusive. And the fourth is to identify sustainable solutions within communities to create transformative change. And that last one is what we're going to talk about right now with care centers. So again, I'm one of the directors of care centers, and at care centers we focus on community wisdom because that's the way we're going to get community solutions. And CARE is identifying sustainable solutions within communities to create transformative change. So I want to talk about these three people in the picture really quick. So on your far left, his name's Tim Freeman. He's wearing the Army Green shirt. Tim is an amazing human and really the epitome of community wisdom. Tim knows everything that is going on in his town, on his street, on his block at any moment. I mean, he's like the community spokesperson. He talks to everybody, and he really has the pulse of what's going on in his community. So valuable. One of the things that affects people and animals in his community is lack of training. A lot of animals that are surrendered to shelters from Tim's community are because of behavior issues. And Tim, being a dog trainer himself, is poised to make change in his community because of his community wisdom. So not only does he know what's going on in his community, where the issues are, where the problems are, but he's able to go in and help fix them. So what Tim's doing as a part of our Care Center partnership, he created a 501c3 called Braveheart Pets, in where he's going to hold free training classes every week at his local park. Again, these are free training classes for anybody that needs or that would want to take part in those. I think it's going to be an amazing thing that he's going to be doing in his community, and it's going to lead to less animals entering his shelter or the shelter that's closest to him. In the middle, we have Bianca Gaynor. Not only does she have one of the best personalities of anybody I've ever met, every time you're around Bianca, you just can't help but smile. She's completely hilarious, but she is an amazing person altogether as well. She has a little zoo inside of her house. I mean, she has lizards and tarantulas and all sorts of creepy crawly things. She truly cares about every animal, not just dogs and cats, which I think is just so special. And she's an amazing baker. So what she's going to do is she's going to use her animal knowledge. She's a former animal control officer as well. And with her organization, Forever I Love Atlanta, they do two things. For people, they do like days of giving. So she organizes these days. She does them usually once a month, where she collects all supplies needed for humans. And that could be like jackets or gloves for the winter time, or really she did like a whole Thanksgiving dinner for people in her community. She does so much. And then for the animals, she's going to be baking her own line of dog and cat treats. She's actually looking for a community kitchen right now to get started, but look out for those. Those treats are going to be amazing. She actually baked a few for Tim to use, and Tim didn't eat them. At least he says he didn't eat them. I'm not sure, but he said that they were a hit with his dogs, and she's going to be making cat treats as well. So that's something to look out for. And then I guess the guy on the far right, especially with this crowd, I've seen all the TNR advocates that are a part of this. You probably don't even need me to talk about this guy, but I will anyway, just because personally, Sterling is just great. And anybody that has met him already knows this, but if you just know Sterling from social media, you may not know that his real life personality matches or supersedes anything that you've seen on social media. He is a true community advocate. He is a lover of all cats, and he's just great. What Sterling is doing, for those of you, maybe the 3% of you that don't know, not only does he do TNR himself, he's constantly fielding questions from people online through his social media and through his email about TNR, helping them, discussing what ways they should, really help with TNR projects and things like that. He's just great. But also now he has this amazing RV. Before he had a van, now he has this amazing RV that he's going to use to go to shelters and rescues and go meet TNR advocates all across the country and spread the great news about TNR and everything that he's been doing and everything that he's learned along the way. So he's just truly an amazing person. Like I said, that's probably all. You guys already know all this, but I just didn't want to leave him out. He's a great guy. So that's care centers. So what care centers do, it's not truly a physical location. We are centered around people just like these three. These three are some of our care center partners, but we have much more. And the next care center partner I'm going to talk about is Oasiag or loved. So Oasiag or loved, Oasiag means animals in and yeah, Oasiag are loved, and they are from the Red Lake Nation. Their director is Veronica. She is, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to say amazing a billion times during this presentation because all of these people are truly that. They're truly amazing. Such a special person. When I first met Veronica, it was through a Zoom call, and we were talking about her organization, and she brought on people that wanted to be a part of the organization on the board level. And it really wasn't anything that Veronica said. It was everything that everybody around her said about Veronica that made me just realize she was special. So she was starting this organization. She had a goal of really helping her whole community with the dog and cat population. There's no animal control in Red Lake. There's only one rescue organization that kind of helps out with that huge piece of land that is Red Lake in Minnesota. So she's seen another avenue to help. And honestly, it all started with this one dog. So as Veronica was driving to work one day, she saw this dog, and there was actually two of them. Two dogs that were outside. You could see all the snow, kind of looks like what it looks like outside of my house right now. But these dogs were outside, had nothing to protect them, no dog house, no straw, anything. And she just couldn't stop thinking about it. She went into work and she, worked the first half of her day. And then at her lunch break, she was with a couple other employees, and she just started telling them about these two dogs and how bad she felt and that she really just wanted to do something. She couldn't stop thinking about it. So one of her coworkers said that they have a dog house in their yard that wasn't being used, but it was frozen to the ground. So they were going to have to take it after work, chain it up, and rip it off the ground to take it to these two dogs. So from there, that's what they did. They took this dog house, took it to those two dogs, but then they realized the dog house just wasn't enough. The walls weren't insulated. The weather was still getting right through those wooden walls, and they knew that they had to do something else. They needed some straw. Traditional rescue, we see, is very reactive. Like I said earlier, things are coming 100 miles an hour. So what we think would have probably happened, if traditional rescue came in, instead of finding what could we do to help these dogs, help the people that own these dogs, keep these dogs, right? It's not just all about just taking these dogs away. Traditional rescue, that's exactly what would have happened. Somebody would have came, seen those dogs in that condition. The first thought, we have to get these dogs out of here. We have to take these dogs away from these people. They're not fit to own these dogs. They don't really care about these dogs. We're taking them, and we're taking them somewhere else. That in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, transport is a Band-Aid. What really needs to happen in some of these communities, most of these communities, is we have to rely on the community wisdom of the people that are in these communities to figure out what is the surgery. How do we actually fix this problem? If we just keep taking dogs, we're not teaching the people that had those dogs anything. We're not sharing our knowledge base with the people that had those dogs. And what's going to happen? They're just going to get new dogs. They're just going to get new cats. They're just going to get new dogs. We are not really helping to fill that need, or to find that solution that's going to make it sustainable for that community to keep having dogs and cats. But that's not what Awanuk did. Awanuk relied on her community wisdom and knew what needed to be done. So instead of going there, berating those people, taking their dogs, or demanding that they release the ownership of their dogs, what she did, she talked to her coworkers, they grabbed that dog house, and then they got some straw. And that's really what her rescue, her organization does now on a daily basis. They focus on solutions that are helping to keep people and pets healthy in their community, instead of just stealing pets from the community. And this is all done with community wisdom. So I don't like having wordy slides, but I feel like this slide is very important. So I do want to read this over. So community wisdom is the aggregated base of knowledge, intuition, skills, and assets that relevant stakeholders bring to solving their collective challenges. Members representing specific audiences must be engaged both in defining questions and shaping solutions for their communities. Tapping into this wisdom and strengthening local capacity build leadership, support a positive shift in norms, and are essential for developing appropriate, sustainable strategies that will improve community life. Innovative strategies that engage a range of community leaders in applying prior achievements to their promising practices will best ensure sustainability. And I think that's the part that we have to focus on, that sustainability. Too often, in animal rescue and animal welfare, in human and animal well-being, it's that reactivity that ensures that those programs will not be sustainable. We're missing steps. And I think community wisdom is that step that we're missing. So we have a lot of programs that, again, focus on community wisdom here at CARE. And one of those is Caregiver Circle. The Caregiver Circle, what that is, it gives Veronica of Awasiaga Loved the ability to kind of collect people in her community that want to help, or that need help, or that need service, and she's able to access them on a daily, weekly, whenever basis, really. It's I'm not sure why that keeps happening. The Caregiver Circle is easy to join. You just text a number to Circle. For Red Lake, it's a little different. They have a special code that people can text in, but it's worked so I was about to say amazingly, so amazingly for Veronica. So one of the ways that she uses the Caregiver Circle is right behind her. You can see straw. Straw is gold for Red Lake. All the animals need it. You know, we think it's cold right now. Like, I walked outside of my house and I was freezing, or at least I thought I was, and it's like 25 degrees. But where Veronica lives in Red Lake in Minnesota, often it's negative 20. So I just can't even imagine that. And she's out there all the time. I mean, if you follow them on social media, when they do these rescue missions, or they're giving out the straw, her eyelids and eyelashes are literally frozen. There's like icicles hanging off her eyelashes. I just can't imagine that level of cold. But so one of the things that they want to do is be able to get this straw for everyone, and they have to travel outside of Red Lake to go get this straw. So they have to go get the straw, come back. They come back to a meeting place. But one of the gaps was her being able to let people know that she has the straw and where she's going to be. And by having her people around her be able to join this Caregiver Circle, that challenge was met. So what she did this last time, she fills up this trailer, usually has 122 bales of hay on each trailer, and that used to take her up to 4 days to be able to hand out to all of the community. Well, what she did this time, once she was 15 minutes or 20 minutes away from the meeting spot, she sent out a message to everybody in her community that joined the Caregiver Circle. Hey, I have straw. I'm going to be at this location. Come on out and get it. what happened was she was met with a huge line of people just waiting for their straw once she got to that location. So she got to that location and she was able to give out every bale of straw that was on her trailer within an hour. So something that used to be able to take 4 days cut down to an hour. And that's but with the use of the caregiver circle. So I'm sure you're all thinking, what can you do with your organization, with your TNR efforts? How can you really figure out how to really embrace and harness community wisdom? And before we go, I do want to mention Gary too. Gary is one of our care center partners as well. He is starting his process to become a registered 501c3. He's going to name his organization Gary's Animal Rescue Efforts. So Gary is part of the Mille Lacs Nation. Well, he's actually a Red Lake tribe member. He works for Mille Lacs, which is another tribal nation inside Minnesota. They're about 2 hours apart. And he is the trash guy for the Mille Lacs Nation. So he sees all of the dogs and cats along his route every single day, and he feeds them all. He helps them all. But sometimes he has, there is a dog or a cat that's in need of veterinary help or rescue and things like that. So Gary will take those dogs or cats on his own and transfer them to rescues all over. And he uses his own gas, his own truck, all of that. And again, this isn't close by. Like the nearest rescue to Gary is about an hour and a half, and sometimes they're full, so he has to drive sometimes 4 or 5 hours to find rescue for dogs and cats that are in need in Mille Lacs. He's an amazing person and somebody to watch out for as well. So one of the things that you can definitely do, and this isn't available quite yet, but I do urge you to go to CARE's website, careawo.org. Look up under divisions. It's the READY certification. So this certification is going to be great. And we call it the READY certification. A lot of you have heard of DEI, and this is similar, but we felt it was very important to put racial equity first. And I think this is another thing that was coined by Johnny Jenkins. Amazing. Are you ready? It's just really, really cool. So we've partnered with Maddie's Fund, and they are going to help us put this on an online platform. I'm sure you've taken other certification courses before. This is going to be super important for this time in human and animal well-being, animal welfare, whatever you want to call it. And really, literally anybody could take this. There's going to be great videos from care staff. There's amazing graphics that James has created, and it is a true certification. This isn't going to be something you can just click through and pass. It's pretty difficult, but it's something that you and your organization are going to be able to do and become ready and care certified. So definitely look out for this. Go to CARE's website. You can sign up so that way you know exactly when this drops, but it should be dropping relatively soon. So another thing that you could do is be a good neighbor. And what I mean by that, and not like State Farm, be a good neighbor, but what I mean by that is be a part of that community in order to grasp this community wisdom. Many people that work for animal welfare organizations, or they're a part in some part of animal welfare organizations, generally the only community events they go to are for their shelter or rescue and things like that. What I would urge you to do is go out to things that have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with animals. Go out to a local craft show, or go and be a part of, a council meeting or something like that. I mean, truly meet people in the community that are doing great things, talk to them and listen. Maybe pop in and ask them questions about animals in their community, or things that would help you, or what their feelings are at TNR, and just talk to them. Have a reciprocal conversation. You are going to learn so much. And then if they're in your community and they're not already a part of your rescue or organization or TNR efforts, invite them in. invite them to see what you do and what you're so passionate about as well. That's all a part of being a good neighbor. So, like I said, invite them in. If you run a shelter or rescue, or you're a part of it, and or even if you're a volunteer, whatever, if you have some, if you are just a part of any of these organizations, check to see, look around, look on the board, look at your fellow employees or volunteers or trappers, and really see, does that organization, does this group mirror their community? So this is Luis Quintanilla, and this is his shelter. It's Humane Society of Harlingen. They are in Deep South Texas. I had the pleasure of working with Luis for about 2 years, and working with this team in Harlingen for about the same amount of time. This is an organization. They are a small shelter. They get in probably like 6,000 animals every single year. And since Luis has been there, he took that shelter from a 40% save rate, right around there, to now they're well over 90%. I think they're at like a 93% save rate. And just the other day, they celebrated their 2-year anniversary of being over 90%. This shelter, this group is amazing, and they mirror their community. Luis is very cognizant of the fact that predominantly animal welfare, even in Deep South Texas, is a very white career path. But in his organization, 90% of the people that work for him are Mexican American, and that directly reflects what their community is. Luis doesn't have, the same problem that is facing a lot of shelters and rescues right now, with the inability to hire. His staff is completely full, and he has a stack of applications of people that want to join the Humane Society of Harlingen. And most of the people that he hires say the same thing. They did not know that this was a place that they could work. They didn't know that they would be, welcomed into this career path, because when they generally went into shelters and rescues and things like that, they didn't see people that looked like them. Hiring from within is super important. Your organization or group should definitely mirror the community, and you will absorb all of that community wisdom from the people that live and breathe and work in your community. So give your time. So when I talked about this a little bit, when I was saying that to be a good neighbor and join community events, I just can't tell you how important this is. There may just be, it may not even be an event. It may be an organization that's in your community that isn't doing things for animals yet, So I could tell you a story about this center right here. This is in Camden, New Jersey. This is a building, the neighborhood center right here, that has been there for 100 years. I grew up in Camden. I was born in Camden, grew up in Camden. I never even knew the neighborhood center existed. Never. And they do such amazing things. They have every day from 12 to 2. They feed people that are experiencing homelessness. They provide warm lunch for them every single day. They have day camps for children. They have after school programs for children. They have a community garden. They have a full basketball program. They do so much for their community. When we started meeting with the neighborhood center, we realized there was a lot of people coming through those doors that probably all had pets. So with our research and development team, we did a survey just to make sure that was true. And we found out that a lot of people that were going to the neighborhood center for day camps and after school programs and all the things that they already do had pets. So we started, we brought them dog and cat food. We joined their events. One of them right here, they had a Toys for Tots event on December 14th of this year, where they set the basketball court up basically like a little toy shop. Parents could come in and pick whatever they needed for their children for Christmas. It was just an amazing thing. And Sterling came out to support. He drove from Atlanta, came, hung out, and supported this event. It was just amazing. And Sterling's not even from the community, and he came. But it was truly great to see. And what we've done with the neighborhood center, we listened, seen what they needed, helped them with the Toys for Tots event, but also every event that they have now, they're also going to have dog and cat food. We gave away litter boxes, cat toys, all sorts of stuff to introduce that human and animal well-being aspect to the neighborhood center. So there could be centers just like this in your community that would love to know more about TNR, would love to know more about proper cat husbandry, would love to know more about helping dogs and cats in their community. But you never know until you actually give your time and go figure that out. And one of the last things, and I think this is so very important, for sponsors, for funders, for donors, in order for all of this to happen, you have to fund us like you want us to win. This quote is from Ashley Henderson. If you don't know Ashley Henderson, please look her up. She's an amazing community advocate and activist. But when I heard this, it's something that'll stick with me forever. We see organizations like the Neighborhood Center, who I just talked about in our last slide. They've been there for 100 years. We see smaller TNR organizations, smaller trappers, like you're going to meet Sassy right after this, an amazing person who is trapping cats every single day. Literally, when we asked Sassy to come down for a day, she was actually helping us at one of the events at the Neighborhood Center. She had to go home afterwards, and she lives in New York, so it was like a few hour drive from New York City to Camden, New Jersey. She had to make sure that she was home to feed her community cats. She's not getting any funding from anyone right now. If you want to see great work happen in your community, the only way for that to happen is for these larger organizations, these larger funders, and really donors of all sizes to fund us like you want us to win. With that, I'd like to thank our sponsors at CARE, Maddie's Fun, Life of Riley, Tito's, PetSmart Charities, Purina. They've been such amazing partners, and they truly have funded us like they wanted us to win, and CARE is definitely winning. And that is it. Just a reminder, inclusion equals life-saving. I think we have some time for questions. I'd love to get some questions.
Great presentation. Thank you so much, folks. Please do put your questions in here. I have a couple of questions while waiting for others. So you were sort of talking about rescue not being an option, and I'm going to focus the question specifically around cats. Yeah. And it got me thinking about, well, we have sort of like connected cats in our community. So there are cats that have some sort of a connection with folks, and then there are, I'd say, cats or kittens that don't have connection. So there's a time and a place for rescue, and a time and a place for sort of preventive extra care, community care and support to be able to have that cat stay within the community. How do you make a decision as to when is it time for rescue intervention to come into play versus when is it time to just do, I say just with very light terms here, but do the supportive care that ensures that that cat can stay within the community?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think it's really impossible to know unless you've done that homework, right? If you're just a rescue that's coming in and the only reason you're coming into that community is to do those rescue, take cats from that community outside of that community, then you're not going to know, right? Unless the cat's visibly injured or underweight or something that's causing you to make some direct action right then, you're not going to know if that cat has an owner or if that cat's being cared for. But if you are truly a part of that community, if you have relations in that community, if you know that area, you're going to know that cat belongs there. You're going to know who feeds that cat. You're going to know who takes care of that cat. You're going to know who loves that cat. So that's the kind of the part that I'm talking about being reactive versus proactive. We have to be proactive in really understanding that community, knowing who's there, knowing what cats are there, and knowing how you can best serve that community. without that prior homework being done, you're just not going to have the answer.
So I'm going to ask this is pretty loaded question. So I'm going to just ask this of you from. So one person is stating that they live in an area with a large Amish community that does not believe in spay neuter. Do you have any recommendations, sort of how to break into or how to work with that community to be able to make some strides with regards to that?
Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, I haven't done my homework on the Amish community. I really don't know much about the Amish, but I mean, if there's any way, you know, that you could speak to somebody about it, you know, really figure out what their issue is with cats or spay and neuter and why they don't want to spay and neuter, and then talk to them like you would any other person within the community, and just, you know, try to make changes that way. I mean, if it's just something that they just don't believe in it, and there's really nothing else you can do. I mean, that's definitely a difficult situation, but I do think that should be pretty rare. I've never heard that in all my years in animal welfare, but yeah, I mean, that's difficult. But I would definitely do the same things. You know, really embed yourself in the community, find somebody that may be an advocate, find somebody that would talk to you about what their issues are with spay and neuter, and do your best to talk to them about why spay and neuter is so important, and that's going to help, you know, the life and longevity of all the cats that they care about.
As you're envisioning these care centers, which I assume the goal is to have them all around the country, do you feel that there's a place in there for behavioral support to cat owners?
Oh, 100%. I mean, 1,000%. I mean, I think one of the main reasons that cats and dogs find their ways into shelters and rescues, it's generally a behavior issue. So yes, so cat behavior, it's not as easy to find, at least in my opinion, to find cat trainers and cat behaviorists as it is for dogs. So yes, I think that's going to be a huge part of our care center partnerships in the future.
Yeah, and we have online behavior day that comes up in April, and we will be talking about how to create your own behavior program within your own organizations, or even as individuals to be your own, you know, consultant, or not consultant, but a volunteer that will help support behavior issues within the community. So that will be coming up in April at Online Behavior Day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, and and there's somebody out there volunteering. This is great. There's someone out, a certified cat behaviorist out there willing to help out. So we'll make sure we get the connection through.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and all right, then I have here. Let's see here, funding groups. One thing you were talking about, the funding issue, that I wanted to bring up, and so many people doing TNR are doing it all on their own as individuals. Yeah. Do you feel that the solution around that, I keep using quotes, it's like you saying amazing, and I'm going,
I know, I said amazing.
So anyway, for the solution, do you feel that funding solution falls within the realm of developing a 501c3 organization, or finding funding alternatives for individuals instead? Because creating a 501c3 is not something that happens overnight. It's not easy. It's a huge responsibility. I have merged with lots of 501c3s. I have created them. I have spun them off. It's like there's always morphing one way or the other. I never know whether the door's open or closed. And I'm kind of like, at the end of the day, do we just want to get the work done?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there has to be a bigger discussion from the larger funders on how do we get money to those individuals that are doing the work, right? And whether that is, you know, I think the creation of 501c3s is a great idea, but like you mentioned, I mean, that's a business. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. It's difficult. And again, you know, sometimes the people that are actually doing the work, they don't want to run a whole business. They just want to do what they're doing. They know that there's an impact. So yeah, that has to be a discussion from funders and donors. How do we get money from those big organizations that have plenty of it to give to the people like Sassy that are out there every single day trapping, and there's hundreds of thousands of people probably that are doing that every day. So how do we do that? I think that has to be a discussion that we keep pushing with the larger funders.
Yeah, and also, are the larger funders really the place to go? You know, I mean, GoFundMe, it isn't involved with any larger funders. You know, donations are just passed from one party to another party. I'm the godparent of a lot of people's cats,
Yeah.
because, you know, in order for them to be able to keep their cats, they need extra, you know, medical assistance. So, you know, is there a dating service out there or something like that where we have, you know, people match with colonies and sponsor those colonies, and it's through a GoFundMe type model rather than really even having to have the sort of formal foundation involvement. Not to say that that money is unwelcome, because it's totally welcome, but I also think that there are funding sources that might be available that are in different ways for sure too. Neighbor to neighbor, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
the neighborhood supporting a colony of cats makes a lot of sense. And I think there are different models for us to consider out there. Sterling out there is trying to share all of his comments and he's frustrated because this isn't Zoom, so everybody can't see him. I don't know, Sterling, you had a question out there. Do you want to like pop in here and turn your camera on and your microphone on? And you had a question, and I was not sure if it was directed to me or to Michael, but it says any future plans for you and CARE. So not sure if that was directed to Michael or to me directly, but if you want to clarify, you're most welcome to. And I'm not sure if he knows how to turn himself on yet, but if he wants to, he's welcome to join. So this person has some experience working with Native tribes and TNR. And there have been some challenges about convincing them that TNR is effective. We keep being told that we want to let nature take its course. The colony is behind a casino or near a casino. Do you have any tips for success that you may have heard about working with the other care organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that same thing, right? So like when we go to Red Lake, and if there's changes that need to be made, like if we're talking about TNR, CARE is not the one that goes in and starts talking to people about these changes. We partner with the community advocates. Like Veronica and her organization are going to be the ones to make those changes inside of her community. So I think the messenger matters. I mean, I think finding somebody that's in that community that is already helping with those cats, or maybe not that cat colony, but I'm sure there's other cat colonies in that tribal nation that are being cared for. Find that caretaker, right? Because that person is going to be on your team. They already know what's going on, and that TNR is a big part of it. And get them as an advocate to go talk to the people in charge to really make that case of why TNR is so important.
Right. And the other thing too is there's a lot of different angles, and I know Neighborhood Cats has a lot of information on their website about sort of how to advocate. There are a lot of different angles, so it's understanding what does your audience want to hear, what's going to move the needle, what's the nuisance factor that you want to reduce. So it may not be spay neuter, but it may be rabies vaccinations. It may be you know, just the overall number of cats that are there, and you want to reduce that number. It is with the public, not public health, but the like city selectmen, whenever we presented to them, it was, I have to say, it's roadkill. So it's, you know, you don't want to see kittens smushed on the road. That's the way we sort of portrayed it. And that every select person at that meeting went, oh, what can we give you to prevent kittens from being hit by cars, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of understanding, listening to
Yep.
what's on the other side, and understanding what is it that we can say in order to help move the needle to inspire them to help make, you know, the lives better for the cats in the community. So it's a fancy dance, it really is. But you sort of have a little crib sheet of like, well, if they say this, then I can go there, and you sort of move down with regards to it. But a lot of listening. I feel like
Oh yeah.
we need to do about, you know, 80% listening and 20% talking, and I feel like sometimes we do it the other way around. Okay, so messaging and communications, there's a lot of questions in here about sort of how to communicate. And I know you're talking person to person, but as an organization, where you want to have one voice and one message, are you at CARE sort of coaching the other organizations within the community sort of how to help with messaging and sort of having the same voice? In this particular case, one person saying, they're trying to get the message out that if they do need assistance, that the organization is there for help, and they find sometimes the community's not finding them. Like you said about that neighborhood center in Camden, you live there, you grew up there, you didn't even know it existed.
Yep.
I've had organizations where they've had, brought in 50 cats, and the location of those 50 cats was within 5 miles of the shelter. And the person's like, well, I didn't know you were there. And so how do we try and get that messaging and the communication out in the community, but we're also trying to work within the folks in the community?
Yeah, I think that's that whole be a good neighbor thing. It's like, what are we doing in the community as an organization? How are people going to find us? Are we only going into the community when we're trying to do something like a vaccine clinic or a pet pantry, or are we a part of just other community events that have nothing to do with animals? Are we spending some time at the local neighborhood centers? Are we spending time just on, Main Street of the city and talking to people and handing out flyers? Like, really, as organizations, we have to do a better job of actually getting into the community. I mean, I know for animal shelters generally, the animal shelters that I've worked at have been older animal shelters, and what they used to do with animal shelters, they'd hide them. They'd put them, right next to the city dump or something like that. I mean, not in great locations. So it's hard for people to find animal shelters in their city sometimes on purpose. So you just have to do more out in the community. And like I said, joining groups and events that have zero to do with animals, but just talking at those events, talking to people, finding people, meeting people. And then also, if you don't have a good footprint in the community, again, look at your staff, look at the people that are helping you. Who from your group is actually from that community, actually lives and resides in that community? I think the more we do in that aspect, these answers will just come. And that truly is what community wisdom is. It's having people around you that know, love, live, breathe that community. They have the solutions. It's just, they're either a part of your organization or they're not. And if they're not, let's get them in there.
This is an interesting question, and since you've spent some time in Texas, you might be able to answer it. And I also will maybe ask this question again tomorrow with Andrew Rowan, because he's got a lot of experience on this on an international level. Can you touch a little bit about sort of thoughts around doing TNR on dogs, especially where there are a lot of community dogs or village dogs?
Yeah, it's something that's super exciting for me, and I think Red Lake may be a place that we could actually get something like that going. I mean, I think the fear around TNR of dogs is that I mean, the same thing for cats, only that dogs are much larger and they can actually like really hurt people. Is that there's going to be tons of dogs. We're not taking dogs out. I mean, it's really the same arguments here about cats, that I'm fine with the trapping and the neutering, but the returning, that's the problem I have. That's the issue I have. You're just going to be bringing multiple cats into our community. And I think that's what people think about dogs too, is that there's just going to be large packs of dogs roaming and hurting people. So I think once we get one community inside of the United States to start doing this and we can prove results, then it'll start to roll. The ball will start to roll. But without that that community to look to and say, oh, it actually, it is working, I think those fears are going to be there. I mean, when we're talking about in Dallas, this, or in Texas, this conversation has come up a lot with TNRing dogs, but then, a lot of people refer back to Dallas, where unfortunately there was a person that, was killed by a group of dogs, free roaming dogs. So there is that fear there, a fear that's not there when you're talking about cats. So I think it's something that should happen, at least in portions of the country, to see how it works, and get some data from that. and then hopefully, you know, we can start rolling the ball.
And I think it definitely does happen on an international level,
Yeah.
you know, and so much so that the community dogs in Chile, they're groups that knit sweaters for the dogs. And they all have these little sweaters on that the community has made for them to keep them warm on the colder nights and everything. So all these dogs run around with these sweaters on. I guess it's pretty interesting. I had never heard of it until a couple of years ago. So pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Well, I think that is it for the questions at this point in time.